All right. So in today's session, so today we're going to talk about the database threat landscape and the security value that Defender for SQL servers on machine provides, the architecture changes that we have made lately, and the action required accordingly. And I also want to share with you some demo about the new experiences that we have created lately that can demo how easy is it to enable the plan, to identify the SQL servers in your environment, and how to verify their protection status and to troubleshoot in order to make them protected if not. Databases have always been a prime target for malicious actors since it stores sensitive data. We can obviously call it the crown jewels of modern times. And these are some examples or just few examples that I have collected just to show you how popular is it to target databases in environments, misconfigured databases, and why it is so important to protect them. This is where Defender for Cloud database security comes to play. The database security provides two main capabilities, the posture and threat protection. It is super easy to enable a plan in order to protect databases, and one click to enablement, and then you can protect your databases across Azure, AWS RDS, and on-premises machines. And once enabled, you can identify vulnerabilities and misconfigurations using our risk-based recommendations. But also you can detect for suspicious behavior or anomaly in your environment that might indicate an event of an attack. And we also share with you what are the recommended actions upon detection in order to mitigate the risk. We also super excited to share with you that by using Microsoft Defender for Cloud, you can also have access to the Microsoft Defender XDR, and within the Microsoft Defender XDR, there is a super cool experience to analyze, identify, analyze, and respond to attacks. So Defender for Database provides two main capabilities, threat protection capabilities, agentless capabilities for managed databases, and agent-based capability for the SQL IaaS machines. And today we're going to focus on the Defender for SQL on machines, meaning SQL servers installed on Azure VMs, on-premises, or multi-cloud resources. And the change that I'm going to share with you today is relevant for this offering. So a little bit background about the change that we are making. So historically, Defender for SQL servers on machine relied on the Azure Monitoring Agent framework, whether it's MMA extension or AMA extension, in order to protect the SQL servers. However, we have encountered that this architecture has proven to be sensitive to various customer environments. Let me give you some examples. For example, it needs to comply with some network configurations, or there are some environment factors. For example, if there is some policy restrictions on resources naming convention in the environment, or policy restriction for resources creation on some regions, this can lead to installation failures and to enablement friction and protection gaps. So with that, we come up with a new solution, a new enhanced solution that improve the protection coverage and by upgrading the agent architecture. The new architecture eliminates the dependency that we had up until today on the Azure Monitor framework, and it replaces it by the SQL extension infrastructure as a back channel to streamline the data from the SQL extension using the SQL extension from the SQL instance into the Defender for Cloud portal. So basically, it makes things much more easier, and we remove some of the dependencies that we had. For example, having the DCR and DCRA, workspace, and others. Why we have chose to go with the SQL extension? So the SQL extension is a management tool that connects machines to the cloud and can be used to manage at large scale your SQL environments. It's a well-known capability that many customers are already using, and it was very natural to and required to use the SQL extension in order to streamline the data as a back channel, and by having that, remove some of the dependencies or some of the prerequisites that we had previously. So let me give you an example. I have an Arc, I have an on-premises machine, and I install Azure Arc in order to connect it and to manage it in the cloud. Once I have installed the Azure Arc agent, the SQL extension comes automatically as part of the installation. And the SQL extension creates a new Azure resource called Arc-enabled SQL Server, which uses to manage the instance from the cloud. Once the SQL servers on machine plan enabled, we are installing the Defender for SQL extension and using identity or creates, using existing identity or creates new identity. And basically that's it. It really simplifies everything and help you to protect most of your SQL servers instances in your environment. So we have communicated this change through two customer communications lately. The first communication that we have sent was on April 28th. And we sent this communication to all affected customers, telling them about information about this architectural change. And also, we provided some guidance on the required action in order to update their plans configuration. I will elaborate about it in a moment. And the second communication that we have sent only for small subset of customers on May 12, notifying them that they having SQL servers protected by MMA without having Azure Arc installed on their machines. I will elaborate about this as well. So let's start by the first required action to update the plans configuration settings. And basically, by asking to update the plans configuration settings, we are asking for permissions, for your permissions, to go and enable the auto-registration capability provided by the SQL IaaS extension. And why it's so important? Because there are some cases where someone creates a virtual machine and he uses a custom image that do not include the SQL server within it. So in that case, he probably go in and install the SQL server as a software on that VM. In that case, we won't be able to identify them and to protect them. So we won't know that there is a SQL server installed as a software on that given virtual machine. So this is where the auto-registration comes to play. By enabling this capability, the SQL extension capability, we are able to identify and register the SQL servers installed on their machines on a specified subscription that you have enabled the auto-registration. And once it's enabled, identify, and register those SQL servers, Defender can recognize them and protect them. So this is where this is why this is so important to have the auto-registration capability enabled, because we want to make sure that all the SQL servers in your environment are protected. The second required action, only for the small subset of customers, is asking to install Azure Arc on SQL servers that are protected by MMA, but they do not have Azure Arc installed in their machine. Azure Arc is a prerequisite in order to be protected by the Defender for SQL servers on machine plan. So if you have received the second communication, you need to follow these steps. The first step is to identify the SQL servers that are protected by MMA without Arc, and we have created a dedicated documentation page for that. And we provided a query, how to identify those SQL servers. And the second one, once identified, those machines have been identified, you need to install the Azure Arc following the instructions in the documentation page as well. Before getting into the third required action, I just want to emphasize that MMA have already been deprecated on August 2024. So therefore, we are encourage you to go and install Azure Arc as soon as possible. The third required action is to verify the protection status, identify the SQL servers, and identify protection gaps, and troubleshoot if necessary. So this is the new experience that we have created. We created a new recommendation that basically provides information about the SQL servers installed on your environment. For example, in the first tab, the unhealthy resources, we are listing all the SQL servers that we identified, the registered SQL servers identified in your environment, and we provide the protection status and the unhealthy reason, meaning why they are not being protected. Under the healthy resources, we provide the list of SQL servers that are protected. And under the not applicable resources, we listing all the SQL servers that are not applicable for protection. For example, if they are hosted on virtual machine that it's currently deallocated, or if the instance is down. So in those cases, we will consider that as a not applicable resources. I will show in a moment a demo that demonstrates how you can verify and troubleshoot accordingly. But this new recommendation helps you to identify, verify the protection status, and to troubleshoot accordingly. So how the troubleshooting process looks like. So we recommend you to use the new recommendation experience that we have created in order to scope, in order to identify the unprotected SQL servers. Then we recommend you to go and verify the plan's updated prerequisites that we have published in the public documentation, and then start troubleshooting by using the unhealthy reason listed in the recommendation on a specific SQL server. And it's basically allow you to understand what is the root cause, why the SQL is not being protected. For example, whether there is lack of communication, lack of permissions, restarted needed to the instance, and more. Once you have identified the root cause, we recommend you to go and fix it using the recommended actions that we are listing in our documentation, and I will show you that in a minute. And after taking the relevant action, the recommended action, we recommend you to verify the protection status again and troubleshoot again, meaning troubleshoot and verify until the SQL server becomes protected. So without waiting, I want to share with you a short demo that demonstrates the new experiences that we have created for you. So the first experience that I want to share with you is how to update the plan's configuration settings. So in the Defender for Cloud overview page, there is a new message waiting for you with an action required. And by pressing on the take action, you will be able to see all the subscriptions that needed to update, that you need to update their plan's configuration settings. So by choosing those subscriptions at scale at once and pressing on the update button, you will be able to enable the auto registration by the SQL IaaS extension, and therefore to discover new SQL servers installed on your environment. Now, 2 comments on that. First of all, even though I can see that there are 0 number of SQL Server instances under that subscription, that's okay. You still need to go and update the plan's configuration settings, because this capability allows to discover new SQL servers that haven't been discovered before. So this is why we encourage you to update the plan's configuration settings, even though The number of SQL servers are 0. And the second thing that we also recommend you is to do so on all of your subscriptions because it really helps us discover and protect your SQL Server instances. Now, it's worth mentioning that by updating the plan configuration, we are not enabling any other plans on your behalf. We are just asking your permissions to enable the auto registration capability, and that's it. We're not enabling anything, and it's not impacting directly your billing. So it's just a way, a capability to discover SQL servers in your environment. So this is the first thing that I wanted to show you, how to update the plans configuration settings. The second thing that I want to show you is the new experience that we have created in our recommendation. So I'm going to the recommendation tab. Let me show you how to get into the recommendation. So I'm going to the recommendation tab, switching to classic view in order to see all the resources at once in the same recommendation. I'm searching for the status. This is the name of the recommendation. The status of Microsoft SQL servers on machine should be protected. And this new experience is the way you can identify all the SQL servers in your environment and to verify their protection status. So as I mentioned, you have the unhealthy tab, the healthy tab, and the not applicable one. So let's start by the unhealthy resources. So here I can see that I have one SQL server that is not protected at the moment. And the reason for not being protected is that the Defender for SQL extension does not exist. This is the reason why the SQL server is not protected. So now I need to figure it out how to, what actions can be, I need to take in order to make it protected. So I'm pressing on the remediation steps, and by pressing on this link, I'm getting this new documentation page that provides you some guidance how to troubleshoot. So in this new page, we are providing all the information needed. For example, what is the required resources and enablement process, how to ensure that the prerequisites of the plan have met, and also step number 3, which is the relevant one for us, is how to identify and resolve protection misconfiguration at the SQL Server instance level. Here you can find the list of all the unhealthy reasons that we have listed in the recommendation, and you can also find the recommended action that we recommend you to take in order to solve the issue. For example, if we will see the Defender for SQL extension does not exist, unhealthy reason, we are listing all the actions that you can take in order to solve the issue. So we're encourage you to go and to learn and to use the new documentation page in order to troubleshoot. Going back to the recommendation. So now I know what actions I need to take in order to fix the protection status. Now, as you can see in the freshness interval in the recommendation page, we're seeing that there is a 12 hours refresh rate. So I guess everyone thinks for themselves. So in case I took the relevant action, I don't want to wait 12 hours to see whether my action, the action that I took was effective or not. So in that case, we encourage you to press on the SQL Server name. And once you have chose that, press on the name and going to the Microsoft Defender for Cloud under the Security tab, you can see that in the SQL Virtual Machine page, we are listing the protection status as well, the enablement status, and also the unprotected cause, why it is not being protected. For example, you can see that the same reason appears here as well. the Defender for SQL extension does not exist. So I can take the relevant actions as recommended in our user guide. And I also want to show you that the protection status and the unprotected cause in this page are refreshed every 15 minutes. So this is the place where you can troubleshoot and verify whether the actions that you have taken was effective and solve the issue. So this is the place to verify everything. Now, it's worth mentioning that there are some cases where the protection status and the unprotected cause will be different from the recommendation due to the time freshness, the freshness interval that I've just mentioned. Okay, so in that case, the recommendation will be up to date, up to 12 hours, and then it will be refreshed and the data will be updated automatically. So this is how you can identify the SQL servers and verify their protection status, and also to fix and troubleshoot if needed. One last thing that I want to show you is that we have enabled a new documentation pages that explains everything, starting from how to enable the plan and all the prerequisites, and if I want to enable it on a subscription level, or if I want to enable it on the resource level. It's also mentioned here how to verify that all my machines are protected. So everything that I've explained is listed here in the documentation pages. And as you can see, you can verify the protection status using the recommendation or in the resource as well. And you also can go to the troubleshooting guide. And here you can have the list of all the things that I have mentioned, including the unhealthy reasons and the recommended action accordingly. So here you can have all the information you're looking for. Going back to the deck. So I want to summarize what we have talked today. So we have talked about the Defender for database security value, the SQL servers on machine plan. We have talked about the architecture changes that we have made, utilizing the SQL extension as a back channel instead of the log analytics extensions, and why it is really, really easy and simple to enable the plan and to protect the SQL servers. And I also have shared the action required, how to update the plan's configuration settings, how to identify and install the Azure Arc on SQL servers that are protected by MMA without having the Azure Arc installed, how to verify the protection status, and how to troubleshoot and fix protection if needed. Here is the list of resources, but I have also shared with you the public documentation pages that we have created, so you can look for the Defender for SQL servers on machine plan, public documentation, and have all the answers listed there as well. So I will stop here and we can take questions. Maybe some questions that listed in the chat, or if anyone wants to ask, happy to take questions.
Perfect. Great. Thanks, Tal. Yeah. If anybody has any additional questions, please feel free to continue adding them to the Q&A. For the first question, we can go over for Tal. For on-prem SQL servers that have already been onboarded with only standard or streamlined MDE package, is there an elegant way to transition them to MDC/Arc managed servers?
So if they are onboarded to Azure Arc, I'm not sure if that's the question, but if the Azure Arc agent already installed, the SQL extension automatically installed as well. And by enabling the plan, it is super easy. We are taking care of everything else. So I hope it's answered the question, but that's the procedure, the recommended procedure to take.
Great. The next question says, is there script that works in live response to install the Arc agent?
I think we can search in the Azure Arc documentation and look for something that might help in that situation. We can definitely have a look.
Okay. The next question says, how do you remediate non-protected SQL issues at scale? In environments with 1,000 plus SQL servers, it can be difficult to troubleshoot 100 plus non-protected SQL servers.
Great. So I think it depends on the reason why it's not being protected. If it's a matter of permissions, restarting the instance, it really depends. I can tell that we're trying our best to do everything we can automatically on behalf of the customers when we can do that without interrupting to the policies that the customers have configured in their environment. Meaning, if everything goes well, they don't need to do anything. But in case they do need to troubleshoot, it really depends on the reason why. I'm sure that there are some scripts or automatic tools. And by the way, if there is some specific ask about action that you're looking for to do at scale, we can help with that. So we will be happy to hear and assist. But it really depends on the reason why.
Perfect. Okay. And the next question says, apologies if this was already covered, but if customers are using Azure Arc and Azure Monitor Agent with Defender for SQL on VM, will they still need to install the new Defender agent?
So if they're using the Azure Monitoring Agent, the Defender for SQL extension already exists because this is one of the prerequisites that we had. So in that case, no further action needed.
Okay, great. The next question says, is it correct that there is no cost change for using the Arc-based SQL extension approach for previously AMA-based protected SQL instances?
Great. So let's talk about billing. So Defender for SQL Servers on Machine plan only billing protected SQL servers. So assuming some SQL server was protected by AMA, and now it's being protected by the enhanced solution, the cost will be the same because it was protected and it remained protected. So nothing has been changed. What Defender for SQL Servers on Machine going to start billing is if there are SQL servers that was previously not being protected, and now it's being protected because of Defender enhancing the solution and reduce the friction in the enablement. So in that case, if new SQL servers become protected or existing SQL servers become protected, so we will build them because we're billing only for protected SQL servers.
Perfect. Great. And the next question says, how do you define exclusion and scans without XDR portal?
So it's really part of the alerts experiences that we have today as part of the Defender for Cloud alerts blade. And you can suppress some of the rules. I think we have a great documentation pages in public that we have publicly published, and we can also link it if needed. We can provide some links and explanation how to do so.
Great. Thank you. It looks like that was our last question, and all the other ones have been answered in the chat. Actually, we got one more. Do we face any challenges while we onboard SQL Server hosted on AWS Cloud to Azure Arc? Can you share the script if it's available?
Absolutely. Once the Azure Arc is installed, basically it's the same as on-premises and other machines, but yeah, we can absolutely share some scripts if needed to help install and start protecting the SQL servers on other environments. So yeah, on AWS and in other on-premises and other environments. So absolutely.
Great. And then it looks like we have a few more. So will there be any friction if Defender for Endpoint and AMA having SQL extension, both running on the same server?
So I think it's a different solution. So MDE responsible to protect the virtual machine itself, and the SQL servers on machine plane responsible to protect the SQL servers within the virtual machine. And these are different solutions that responsible to protect different products. Now, if there is an MDE already installed on that environment and the plan is enabled on that machine as well, we are going to take care of everything else. We're going to install the Defender for SQL extension and the SQL extension, and to make sure that everything is really seamless and easy to start protecting the SQL servers as well.
Great.
But I guess those two things are very complementary. Like you need to, it's not enough to protect the SQL servers without protecting the virtual machine that hosts the SQL servers as well.
Perfect. And the last question here says, do you have an ARC information regarding SQL because it was shown with Azure VM?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but if we can take it afterwards and try to understand what exactly the question refers to, and we can provide an answer, because I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, great. That sounds good. And it looks like that was our last question. So thank you so much, Tal, for being our guest today and for sharing that great information with our community. Also, thank you to the Q&A team who helped us with answering our questions and providing the resourceful information. To all the listeners still on the line, if you're someone who wishes to aid in the protection of the world from cyber threats and desire to have a say in shaping our strategies, blueprints, and recommendations, then we invite you to become part of our security community. Together, we can make a global impact. So join us at aka.ms/securitycommunity. This is also where you'll be notified about the upcoming webinars, events, and other announcements. For those of you who may have additional questions on the topic we just covered or other product-related questions, please feel free to raise them on our Microsoft Tech Community discussion space at aka.ms/MDC-community. Thank you all for being part of our community and for joining us on these webinars. We hope to see you next time. Goodbye.